I want to go to one final one, which is about the Treasury Secretary Bessent meeting with a potential Fed chair.
Also got some breaking news on the search for Fed Chair Jerome Powell's replacement. And our Steve Leisman is here with those breaking details. Steve.
We don't have a single name, Dom, but what you'll hear is we still have 11 names.
A slate of them.
What we learned from two Treasury sources is that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, met this week with former Fed Governors Larry Lindsey, Kevin Warsh, and former St. Louis Fed President James Bullard. However, he is waiting for the Fed blackout period to end, which, as you know, ends a week from this Friday, to speak with the sitting Fed officials who are among the 11 who are being talked about. His goal at the end of this process, I'm told by the sources, is to add one or two names to the three the president has already mentioned, known colloquially as the two Kevins, Warsh and Hassett, as well as Chris Waller, the Federal Reserve governor. All 11 candidates, I am told, are still in play. Before I get to the next step, I want to point out how incredibly transparent they're being about this process. Very different from other administrations, even different from the first Trump administration. They're playing this out in public, letting us know who he's meeting with, when he's going to meet with them. On the issue of the long article that the Treasury Secretary wrote last week, I was able to ask the officials.
By the way, whenever they talk about transparency, when they're talking about fiscal and monetary policy, don't get it twisted. They're testing the market to see what the market thinks about the given names. They want a name that when they choose it, markets go up. They're being remarkably transparent. Yeah, they're going to be replacing the Fed chairman in a period of turmoil. They want to see what these names do. All right? Hey, look, they know what they're doing there. It's not out of the kindness of their own hearts. Come on. They're being remarkably transparent. You know. I know you know.
What did the Treasury Secretary mean when it came to the balance sheet? You could read that as saying he wanted the balance sheet to be wound down. He said he's looking, they said the Treasury Secretary is looking for a long-term organic reduction in the balance sheet. Nothing fast. The Secretary believes the balance sheet's decline must not be disrupted to financial markets or the economy. He favors
reducing the balance sheet. Peter, you know what this is? The Fed monetizes the debt. They buy assets. They hold on to different items in order to relieve the stress within the system. They're monetizing the debt. But as that accumulates, it's a burden on the Fed. It's a burden on the debt and burden on all that. So the idea is that they can allow those bonds to roll off, but that can be an issue. If you're expecting your parents to pay for your rent every month, and then they're like, oh, we're going to ease up on that. We're going to pay 80% of it. We're going to pay 50% of it. We just want to get you on your feet a little bit. You might be like, excuse me, what's this? And so he's saying that Bessent has been talking about the runoff off the balance sheet because this is the responsible thing to say. It's a responsible thing to say that we get our credit in order. But he doesn't want to cause turmoil to the financial markets. They want to do it in an easy enough way, a slow and steady enough way that it doesn't cause any pain, which is like having a 30% interest on your credit card and paying off half the monthly payment every month. Let's just ease that a bit. That's basically what they're saying. Just walk the fine line. It doesn't work for you personally. It doesn't work for the Treasury, but it works for guidance. Because people go, well, they're not trying to rock the markets. And if the markets do rock, they're going to come and like undo what they're doing. So everything's good. Everything is good. It's like when your drug dealer wants to get out of the drug dealing game. And you're like, look it. Just have a reserve of drugs on hand. You know I'm good for it. And I'll taper along with you. Give me time to find somebody else. Give me time to get off this Mac. Yeah, we believe it. Always remember the end of Requiem for a Dream. That movie is essentially monetary and fiscal policy. All right, Peter, that's fun. That's great.
It is.
This is, we're living in a world where both the government and the banks all agree that markets have to go up. And all we have to decide is, do we believe them? Do we have 50 years of experience of the markets going up and to the right whenever they can? Yes. Do we believe Trump wants the markets all-time highs? Yes. Do we believe that they will I was about to say something very insensitive. Let me switch that up. Do we believe that they will, Princess Diana, the Federal Reserve chairman, to get that to happen? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh
They
my
want the
God.
markets to go
Now
up.
I know. Now I know what you were gonna say. Now I know for sure what you
You
were
got it.
gonna say.
Yeah, whatever you think it is, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it was going to be.
And it's worse than if you were gonna reference 9/11. It's worse than that.
Yes, decidedly. Look, I have self-awareness. I understand that. Look, we're here to understand where to put our money, how to bet, how to trade, how to invest. And it's made very clear, and it should have been made very clear when Trump came into office, that he's ready to dodge a bullet. You think he's not going to go toe-to-toe with Powell? He's going toe-to-toe with Powell. Markets are going up. God dang. Be exposed to markets. If you're listening to this and you're not exposed to markets, you don't have any exposure to markets, you can't read it, you can't understand it, you're not regularly consuming content like my own in order to understand what to do, I don't know what you're doing. Because you're going to be poor. That's going to happen to you. You're not going to keep your job and get that money in and have that for the next until you're 65 years old and retire to a nice pension. That ain't happening. Not the teachers, not the doctors, not the lawyers, not the drivers, not to anybody else. Your only hope is to expose yourself to markets because that's where the currency. I don't know how else to say it, Peter. Salvation happens through me and people like me. Thank you very much for watching Sacred Profit. We'll be back shortly.